we are back. You're listening to Live from the Heartland. My name's Katie Hogan. My co-host is Michael James. We are celebrating May Day in a couple of different ways. We are celebrating the fact of May Day and also the anniversary that it represents of our beginning of the Heartland Cafe 35 years ago. What is going on right now in front of me is very distracting. Okay, Global Activism Expo 2011. You've heard about this if you listen to WBEZ. Jerome McDonald began the Global Activism series years ago, I don't know how many years ago, on Worldview on BEZ, and then he began off of that holding an expo here in Chicago, which I think is a wonderful event, is it not, Marion? You've been to it a couple times.
It's a spectacular day for lots of international not-for-profits to not only showcase what they do and tell their stories, but also folks come there who want to volunteer or who want to get involved in different activities. It's a wonderful opportunity.
This was Marianne Flynn, who you just heard. Marion is a board member of CROSO, which we'll get into in a moment when Molly Heineman opens up her mouth as well. But just for a second, when folks come to the Global Activism Expo, I noticed in their website you can assist by bringing, for example, hygiene kit items and that sort of thing. For the lead on-site volunteer activity is provided by the Hospital Sisters Mission Outreach.
And they have a spectacular booth that where they accept donations, but also demonstrate that the work that they do is incredible in the number of outreaches they've been able to do to make just with people's spare medical supplies. It's fantastic work.
All right, so Molly Heineman, niece of mine. You've heard her before here, folks. She spoke with you, Michael, not that long ago?
Yeah, I have a great picture of Molly when she was a few years younger, and she works with an organization named CROSO.
Yes.
And why don't you fill everyone in on what exactly it stands for so I don't butcher it?
Thanks. So CROSO is Child Restoration Outreach Support Organization.
And you mainly have been working in East Africa.
Yes, we actually focus only in Uganda. We started as a result of, I studied abroad in Uganda my junior year of college and worked with an organization called Child Restoration Outreach, CRO. And we have been born from that. We support the students from that organization. It's all street children, and we support them to go to college, which is an opportunity that wasn't open to them before. Our organization has helped with that. We currently sponsor 7 students, with another one starting this fall, and have actually just been sent new applications. So we'll be reviewing those, and hopefully with some donations we'll be able to add another student as a result of that.
And where do they go to school? In Uganda?
They all go to school in country. So they're in Uganda, and they're studying different things from law to development to social work. And it's amazing, actually. All of them have chosen to be in careers that continue to develop the country that they're in.
Molly, can you talk a little bit about the CRO organization that is the basis, because it's a real service to these kids?
Sure. So CRO it's a nonprofit that's run by Ugandans in Uganda. It's structured around the fact that they go out on the street, they meet street kids, invite them back to their center, offer them food, offer them counseling, end up getting them involved in school. They consider it a rehabilitation. So they spend a year where they are readjusted to socializing with other youth. They learn how to learn. They have a classroom on site where they learn English, Swahili, a little agriculture, some math, science, and then they go on and are sponsored at the local primary schools.
Why I wanted you to tell that story was that I saw a study recently about the childhood experience of trauma, and how kids who can be positive after that, how they can be contributing adults after that, really only is when kids who've experienced a trauma can connect with a person, can have a mentor or a coach or a teacher, and that's what this organization does. And then the work that we've been doing is, once these kids are in our high school age, or we're giving them an opportunity to take the next step. And in many ways, you know, these are a group of kids that are going to be the next set of government leaders, the next set of professors, the next set of doctors and nurses in Uganda. It's an incredible opportunity that we're able to provide.
Molly, how many times have you been to Uganda?
I've now been 3 times.
Over how many years?
Since 2006. So.
And have you seen, Uganda, was a former British colony, and then it had some really rough years. And what's your sense of the country's development, its situation, and how it might have changed over the number of years that you've been visiting?
That's a great question.
That's why I asked it.
So when I went originally in 2006, I think that was my first experience there. That was my first experience in Africa. So that's my baseline. From then, I came back the following summer, and then it was another 2 years after that that I went for the 3rd time. So the change that I saw, I have to say, a lot of Westernization has occurred. Advertising has, it's true. Advertising has definitely reached Uganda, and it definitely affects the larger cities more than the rural areas. The group that we work with has 4 different centers, but the one that we specifically sponsor students from is in Mbale, which is in eastern Uganda, and it's not a very large town, and so it sort of rides that line of having experienced some of these Western ideas, and people do end up stopping through here as they travel through, but has still maintained a lot of its traditional roots.
I would like to ask both of you, Marion and Molly, what is the sort of state of volunteerism in the country? As we've seen our government kind of tighten the grip on the money that it's willing to put out for, say, service to the masses. There's this whole thing, what do they call it under Bush? Like
10,000 points of light.
Yeah, 10,000 points of light. What
the
is
original Bush?
What is the state of the 10,000 points of light? Like the people from the private sector and just citizens are going to come forward and try to take care of people in difficult times. I mean, my sense, just to tip my hand, is at a time when we ought to be coming together and helping each other more, people are playing the lottery and kind of looking out for themselves. But that's to the 2 extremes. What's your sense of where people are at on volunteering and wanting to help?
I can only speak to that very locally. We've had a tremendous response to this work that Molly really has inspired. We have small college-age and post-college-age kids who are making small donations and out of money that they barely have. We have lots of folks that are making major gifts, and we have several folks who have decided to take a hold of one student and make sure that student finishes college and gets on to real work. So I'd have to say locally, we're very, very pleased. Of course, Molly's been a great inspiration. After one of her trips, she came and talked to a group at our church and had a story to tell about a youngster that she knew. You want to tell that story, Molly?
You're talking about George? Sure.
George.
So George. George was a student that I met while I was there. He was 23 years old or 24 years old, and I was doing an interview. It was while I was studying there, so I was doing an interview with him, and one of my questions was, what are your hopes and dreams for the future? And he sort of looked at me and was like, I don't know. And I was thinking, oh, maybe there's some language barrier there. So I rephrased the question like, well, do you want to get married? Do you have a career idea? And he was like, no, I understood the question. I've been accepted to school and I don't have money to go. So if I can't even go to this school that I've been accepted to, how can I tell you what my dreams are for the future? And that hit me like a ton of bricks. And I mean, it just made me aware of all of the opportunities that I've had here, and even without a lot of jobs available here, we have loans that people can access, and that's not something they have access to. So, and that's really where it got started. And so I shared that story when I came back to my church, and people were very responsive to that, and very willing to help.
Marion, you should co-host the show with us. You do directive questioning very well. You came prepared.
Well, we like guest hosts.
Yeah, we do like guest hosts, and you're invited.
You're one of them
over
today.
The show, babe.
What's your next question?
Well, since you're offering me the mic, I do want to give a little plug to another organization that's appearing at Global Expo.
Just can't mention money.
Okay, no money.
Okay.
A friend of ours is a librarian at New Trier, and she and a lot of her New Trier pals are really focused on building up libraries in Haiti, all of which were destroyed.
Excellent.
They serve not only as libraries but also as community centers and places where kids go and to feel protected. So visit their booth number 2 and our booth number
51.
So, Marion, as somebody who's been to this more than once?
More than once, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you've always been staffing the booth for CROSO?
Oh, and visiting other booths, sure.
So what inspired you on your visits to this? Because I see that they do some great little presentations, like getting kids involved and giving back and some other things that probably
well, I find it very heartening as a person who worked in a for-profit venture for most of my life. I find it very heartening to go and see other people and be inspired by the work that they do. Lots of folks who really could be sitting at home watching Law and Order reruns are not.
CSI.
Or HGTV in my case.
Are really out there, building libraries or raising money for scholarships for kids in all parts of the world. And it's sometimes hard to envision the needs of a world apart from your own, but these folks do. So that's what inspires me.
Yes, that would be inspiring. I would encourage everybody to go. It's today, Saturday, April 30th, noon to 6 p.m. at UIC Forum, which is 725 West Roosevelt Road. It is free. If you've been looking for what you need to get off the dime, get off the couch, and do something
I'd just like to say, too, that Jerome McDonald, who has the show on WBEZ all during the midday, during the week, really has some wonderful interviews. And I always asked one of our producers, Laura Herman, to try to get him to come on this show. And when I heard you guys were coming, I thought maybe he was coming. But you say hello to him from everyone at the Heartland, because he does a great job. And I learn an awful lot by listening to that show. And I would encourage people, whether they do it online, it's called Worldview, to check out Jerome McDonald's stuff, because he's got some really good insights and he brings some really good people.
Well, we will encourage him to come on the show and take the roof off the place. So
right on. Okay. We like that.
We've actually shared guests a few times. I know we're on the right track when I hear a guest we've interviewed a few weeks later on Jerome McDonald.
And we're always happy when we've done it first.
Well, yes. And Molly Heineman is one of those guests, actually. Well, thanks for your great inspirational work, Molly, and for your great latching on and support of that and building it, and for your incredible interviewing ability.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us.
Let's have a big round of applause for Marion Flynn and Molly Heineman of CROSO. And they will be at booth 51 today at the conference being held down at
Global Activism Expo 2011 at UIC Forum, 725 West Roosevelt Road. We are taking the shortest break, and we will be back
with Mike Lynn.